3, 2, 1, and we're on. Hello, everybody. Namaste. I'm Katrina, and is Yogaby Jayesvari, and we're going to talk about the Manipura today. So this is the third chakra in. So we've done root, we have done the Swadhisthana, which is the sacral, and today is the navel, which is the Manipura. So, how's your Manipura going on, Jen?
You know, being so isolated,
Uh-huh.
it's it's struggling
It's struggling. Yeah.
because when we get through the discussion, we'll see that this is where like our motivation comes from,
Mm.
like our self-drive and our metabolism. So of course, when you're not moving or when you're not engaging in healthy activities or, being kind of sluggish, then
That's the
your
Manipura.
metabolism will suffer. Yeah.
That's,
So
that's
yeah, that's why I'm all yellow today. I got my yellow bed, my yellow sweater.
it's good to have that sense of yellowness to focus on that today. Whereas I don't really have very many color coordinated clothes because having just come from India, you think I'd have a lot of interesting clothes, but they all kind of wore out.
And of course, for the season, when we were in India, it was much warmer. And now where you are,
Yeah, exactly. It's cold.
it's cold.
It's cold. So I'm wearing practical warm clothes, which I'll be doing my workout in, or actually going for a walk in later. So that's good. Anyway, so you should all have PowerPoints, perhaps, unless you are not on the group, and then you probably won't have the PowerPoints. But I'm hoping to then extend these workshops out to other people as well. So just to add them onto our pages and stuff like that. So I've got the first slide, which we have the 7 chakras. We talked about the Muladhara, the Swadhisthana. Now we're in the Manipura. Next time will be the Anahata, which is the heart, Vishuddhi, the throat, Ajna, the third eye, and Sahasrara, which is the crown. So here we go, the Manipura, the navel chakra. And you can see that it's a kind of like sun looking flower with, how many petals has it got? I'm not very good at counting these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So about 12 petals, isn't it? 12 petals. 12 petals on the flower. And so each petal represents a sound, which we will then go into if you do the chakra workshops in the Kundalini yoga sessions. We'll get to learn about those. So, where is the Manipura? The Manipura is located at the navel point. It is directly behind the navel and the inner part of the spinal column. The Heshram, which is the front of the Manipura, is located right at the navel point. So it's also it's connected to our solar plexus as well. So it's that part that's why it's all about motivation, because you feel it in your gut. You're like, oh, I'm going to get on with it. So what does the Manipura do? So it is about our internal fire, the fire that's within us, like what Jen was saying. It gets us up and gets us going. And if we don't have that internal fire, that internal desire, we slow down. And this time that we're all living in the pandemic, it's we have to work really hard to get that internal fire going. So all the motivation comes from within. So the stronger your Manipura is, the stronger your motivation is to get things going. It's about choice, and it's about action and vitality and willpower, personal power. And it's also about empowering yourself and other people. So if your Manipura is strong, then you are in this place where you can coach other people, where you can give them the power to do stuff and to be strong about things. So yeah, over to you, Jen. What do you think?
So whenever I read about the Manipura and what I think about it, and relating to our group, our narcissist,
Yeah.
getting over our narcissist relationship group, I think of two words, right? And so the first word I think of is, I don't like to use the word negative, but it's kind of like the not so good side of an inactive Manipura, or maybe a narcissist that has an imbalance in the Manipura, which they tend to rely on enforcing things, right? So they enforce, they force, they persuade, right? Whereas someone with a balanced Manipura tends to inspire.
Yes. Yes.
And so those are like my two key words, especially when I'm interacting with other people. coming from me or receiving information. And this, kind of goes a little bit with the Swadhisthana too, as far as like reading the emotional balance of communications among people is, am I trying to enforce something or inspire something? And is this person communicating with me trying to enforce or force me to do something? Or are they trying to just inspire me?
Mm.
And so that's a good way to look at the emotional aspect of this particular chakra. And a question to ask yourself, when we're focusing on this chakra here, inspire or enforce?
And that also relates to your gut instinct about someone as well. So how does that feel in the stomach? Do you feel slightly nauseous, or do you feel like, oh, I don't like the feeling of that? You do get a sensation about vibes and feelings and stuff, and that is down to the Manipura and our gut instinct, and how we feel about things. So that's very
Yeah,
much connected to that. So
exactly.
yeah, so I should have run a mile when I when I realized about those emotions. If I only knew what I know now, right? So this is why this is very valuable to learn. Yeah.
And
So
that's the thing about people that tend to enforce,
mm,
things on other people, is that they're very persuasive.
yeah,
They're very convincing, and they sort of make you feel like, well, this is for your own good, even though deep down you're like, I know that this is not me. This is not how I like to do things. This is not how I like to operate or feel. But then they're like, you start to think, you know what, maybe they're right. Maybe, and then that's where you second guess yourself. So,
self doubt kicks in, and that self doubt again is related back to the root chakra, your sense of self esteem, your self awareness. So if that's not clear within you, then all these blocked elements from previous chakras come up, and they meet and they correspond with what you're experiencing in the Manipura and further chakras as well. So yeah.
right. Lack of energy flow through these chakras or blockages, like we say, just basically exposes or releases your vulnerability.
Yeah.
And so this is, what we try to do here is when we talk about what the Manipura does or what does it correspond to or whatever, is how we can relate our everyday lives, our everyday feelings and interactions with other people to the characteristics of these chakras. So you can say, okay, like this is a little off. Is this inspiring or is it enforcing?
Exactly.
And so just kind of like these little mind tricks to use to get yourself back to focusing on what's really there, what your body is telling you.
So yeah, you can use those as tools. Every chakra has tools within it that can guide you and give you those red flags or green flags even to the situation that you're about to enter. So it's about,
Sure.
so this is why working on chakras are really important in connection with overcoming narcissistic abuse, is so that yourself, what are those flags? Is it safe? How does this person making me feel? Because we spend so long in that trapped abusive relationship that we forget who we are. I know I certainly did. And having this kind of insight into your emotions and what your gut is telling you, what your root chakra is telling you, the foundation that you've been holding yourself, what is that telling you about yourself? So all these things um, will help you um, create a kind of positive mindset and boundaries, and help you form boundaries. And this is the kind of work that I do with my clients one-to-one, is I actually sit down with them and we talk about what boundaries are they aware of, and how it correlates to each chakra. So each chakra, you can then come up with where your boundaries are with that, where your boundaries are with this, different situations. So it's very, very important that you have that mental state, but it actually comes from within. So it doesn't actually involve a lot of hard work. It just means clearing up the blockages and then making sense of what that brings up for you, because we're all different, and all of our experiences are gonna, tell us different things. So yeah.
Right. Exactly. Our experience shape who we are or who we've become.
Yeah.
And it's up to us to, recognize, is this a good habit or a bad habit? Is this something I need to change or something I want to perpetuate? So,
Yeah.
and that's where a lot of this fire starts in the Manipura.
Yeah.
And what we're focusing on today is building that self-confidence, the willpower, the ability to make good decisions, make decisions in general, because when you have problems deciding on things,
Hmm.
this is the chakra associated with indecision.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
I'm going to get onto the slide that talks about what the Manipura corresponds to. So the
Mhm.
descriptive word I've got here is I can and I do. So therefore, like I can and I'm doing it. You know, it's a very active word. It's a very active kind of position to be in. So you're owning it. You're gonna do it. You know, it's a very powerful place to be. The force is combustion because it's fiery. The sense is sight, and the food are carbohydrates and starches. I'm guessing it's because you get a lot of energy from carbohydrates and starches. So
It's that burst of immediate energy whenever you have your carbs. It's, yeah. And then, of course, with sight, the sense is sight, but the other aspect of the Manipura is the feet. And so that goes along with I can and I do, is you see something and you're like, I can do this, and then your feet help you do it. It takes you there.
exactly,
So
feet walk.
yeah, it's interesting how they connect the two
Yeah,
to help
fascinating.
move the energy in the Manipura. Hmm.
And of course, the element is fire, and because that burning internal fire. So a lot of when it comes to work on your Manipura, it connects a lot to abdominal workouts. So doing core workouts when on a physical level, and strengthening your abs. If your abs are strong, then usually it corresponds to a good powerful Manipura there. So, you know, planks and sit ups and all the stuff that we don't really like, the difficult stuff, you know. So, yeah, that helps the Manipura.
Pranayama too. And so pranayama, for
Yeah,
those of you that don't know, the yoga term, it's a type of breathing practice that you can do. And there's certain types of pranayama
very
that
fine,
ignite that Manipura fire,
exactly.
um, that get the belly moving. And so if you don't like doing lots of abdominal exercises or enjoy planking, or it's just not for you that day, pranayama is always an option too.
And pranayama is so powerful. And in some of the Kundalini Yoga Kriyas, you can actually combine what they call the rapid breath of fire, which is actually Kapalabhati breathing technique or Bastrika pranayam, and you then connect those and do the actual poses with the connection of the breath of fire. Oh my gosh, it is so powerful. And after 1 minute, it's like, oh, but it's amazing because the breath actually forces you into keeping that pose for a long time. So as long as you have the breath, it doesn't actually matter about the muscles. You might feel muscle fatigue, but actually the breath is what keeps you going. So it's that breath of fire is so powerful and so amazing. So
It gives you a burst of energy. It really does.
and that burst of energy is get up and go and do stuff, you know. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, so then we've got the color is orange because of the fire color, and yeah, it's orange. The celestial body, aha, guess what? It's the sun. And the creature is a goat or ram. Hmm. And
Yeah. So when you think of a goat or a ram, what do you think of, right? You think of they're leading with their head, they're forceful, right?
yeah,
If they have their mindset on something, they're going to go for it and do it. And so in our Kundalini Tantra book, it says, of course, the vehicle is the ram, and it symbolizes dynamism and indomitable endurance. And so that's what we're focusing on the Manipura, is that this is where our energy comes from, our endurance, our vitality. Um, this is where digestion occurs. Like, just think this is like your furnace of your body.
yeah, it's your center, you know. Yeah, yeah. So then yeah, so it's extremely powerful. So it's almost like as if you're working on the root, then you're working on the sacral, and then it comes and it meets, and that's that center part of the body that actually connects your heart to what you feel down to the Manipura. So it's kind of like a connecting um a link or something that connects the upper chakras to the lower chakras, is that middle chakra, the third chakra. They do call it the middle chakra as well, some people do that. So it's very, very powerful because you think about gut instinct, you think about your stomach. When you feel nauseous, it lays the whole body down. You feel it all over your body. If you've got a stomach bug, you don't want to do anything. You like it's the worst kind of illness that you can imagine. It's like, because if you have a sore head, then it's just up there, but a sore gut affects your whole body. It affects your limbs and everything, and you just want to stay in bed and curl up. So the
Yes.
gut is they say we've got a brain in the gut, haven't we? That's
Yeah,
very powerful.
absolutely.
So on a physical level, it affects us in terms of like for illnesses like diabetes,
Hmm.
hepatitis, indigestion, as you can imagine, and obviously stomach ulcers and anything relating to the gut in general.
Digestion. A lot of people associate irritable bowel syndrome
Mm,
with the Manipura. I know I do, because it comes from that tension, that feeling of maybe, for the emotional aspect, it's where you hold your anger.
yeah,
It's where you hold your guilt, your passion. It's where you feel shame. It's where you get that gut instinct or that gut feeling. So a lot of emotions and physical things are happening in the gut at the same time. That's why they call it the second brain, because
yeah,
it
exactly.
cues you. It really does.
And we store stuff there from when we were when we were children. I remember my very early days of being in primary school. I had a terrible primary school education where um, we were forced to do a lot of things that wouldn't be seen as being correct today. Like the teachers were very, very strict, and if we weren't able to work through the multiplication table like by rote, if we weren't able to like come up with the with an answer to, like, I don't know, 7 times 6 or whatever, just like that, we'd get the cane. So every day I'd come into school and I used to have this terrible knot in my tummy. And I think I developed acid indigestion back then. I had like bile coming out, which is disgusting. But at the age of
Yeah,
7,
you probably
you
did.
should expect a child to actually experience all of that. And I was very traumatized from my childhood due to the education system. And I think that part of my experience set me up for being with a narc because of my self-worth. And also looking
Absolutely.
back on that, I had a lot of gut issues, a lot of problems with my stomach, and that's down to the Manipura. And of course, my abs were not toned or strong at the time because I didn't know what kind of exercises I was supposed to do. I was only very young, and I used to feel very uneasy, very, very uneasy in my stomach. And today, if something happens that if I know that something bad has happened, the first place I feel it more than anywhere else is going to be my stomach. Don't know about you.
Nerves.
Nerves, yeah, butterflies, you name it. It's like, oh my God,
Mhm.
feel it there
Yeah,
straight away. I'm sure we all feel that same way.
absolutely.
Yeah. So what happens when the Manipura is blocked, when the blocked or unbalanced? So I've got here that dogmatic conformity. So, like, you're likely to follow what other people are doing because you're scared. Um, this could be to do with rules, regulations, or religion, or that sort of thing. Um, then we've got greed as well, because the fear, you also experience fear in the gut, and so the greed of not wanting to share. This is all mine, because you don't have that sense of like um, kind of caring, or maybe you do care, but the greed is somehow overpowering over that. You've got the need for external validation, so you always want to check to make sure that other people are happy with what you're doing. You measure yourself against other people. So this also goes to Facebook, looking through Facebook, and then looking at other people's posts and go like, oh yeah, so and so went on holiday. I wish I could go there. Or there's that sense of envy and things like that, even on a very basic level. um, so you've got rights over responsibilities, and you feel like you're entitled, so that sense of entitlement, this is my right, rather than owning it and being responsible. And it's like the end justifies the means. So, like, for instance, you want to see what the outcome is before you even invest in it, and that then leads to the whole thing of what's in it for me, what am I going to get out of it, why should I sign up for this, why should I do that, you know? And it's that sense of fear again. So it's still, it goes down to the root chakra where you've got the fear, but it then resonates in the stomach area because of the whole kind of manipura experience there. So you know, it's
Yeah,
very real.
because the root is fear, but when people see these other characteristics like greed or need for validation, the end justifies the means, things like that, they seem like, oh, that's really superficial, you
Yeah,
know, or that's just, you know, that's the way they are. But honestly, this is all rooted in that fear,
yeah,
that sense of security. And this is how it manifests in the Manipura.
aura. So like,
Exactly. Yes.
yeah, fear comes up, and so in the Swadhisthana it manifests as jealousy and possessiveness. So when
Yep.
it comes up to the Manipura, then it's like the end justifies the means, what's in it for me. So that kind of like sense is coming from fear. So you know, the fear comes up, that's the negative side, is like, that's why we always say, are you coming from a place of fear, or are you coming from a place of love? If you're coming from a place of fear, then all these negative emotions that come from fear will manifest in the different chakras as you move up the chakras, you know. So this is how it works,
Absolutely.
and it's only
And
just
I
now. Yeah.
I recently, even though I'm still being very isolated, I recently, over the last couple of months, had an experience with this. And us focusing on the Manipura today and reviewing for it this week actually helped me through this specific issue that I was having.
Okay, do
Um,
you want to share?
and it was about volunteering to be in membership in this particular group.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Um, and I won't like get too deep into the weeds to it, but it's like it's predominantly women or all women right now in this group. And this group is meant to be sort of like a welcome wagon for people to help each other adapt to living in a new place, basically. And then, of course, during this time is like to help try to engage on social media or engage, you know, your fellow friend or woman out there and just be like, are you okay? You know, or just kind of host online events, just do whatever you can to help people feel included.
Mm-hmm.
And me volunteering for this group, it got around to me that there were a couple of people in the group that didn't want me to be in the group because of my husband and his associations, and they maybe felt that I was going to come in and just like redo the whole program and take everything over and make it my way because of the influence like my husband has,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of remotely associated with this group. And I didn't know this, and I couldn't understand why like no one had reached out to give me the training that I needed to do, like a refresher training, or hadn't included me in helping prepare events. And so all these things were happening around me, and I'm like, why? But and I'm messaging, I'm like, well, I wouldn't be a part of it, or I can do this, or whatever. And I was just ghosted.
Oh,
And it turned out that I found out that people were intimidated by
your
my
position.
husband and what his association is. And I'm like, well, that has nothing to do with me. And this is a completely volunteer program. So initially I got really upset. But then after researching for the Manipura, I realized, okay, it's their need for validation, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the end is justifying their means and it's what's in it for them. So how good can they look? And if they have to spread the wealth, then it might give the opportunity for someone else, you know, the light to shine somewhere else.
Yeah,
And that's intimidating for them.
of course it is.
You know?
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? Like this has really helped me kind of reviewing and understand it's not me, you know, and I put myself out there and I said, I want to do, you know, tell me what you want me to do to help and however I can. And I was ghosted. And so I was like, you know what? Don't get down on yourself. It's not anything to do with you, right? It's it's them. It's they have their own little group and a new person coming in is could
Intimidating.
be a threat.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Because they've already started the group, and then you're coming in. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's not about you. It's more about them, really. Their insecurities, which is down to the kind of like collective muladhara of the group. You know, their collective muladhara. So yeah. It's interesting. That's very, very interesting. Thanks for sharing that, Jen. That's very
Yeah.
interesting.
So it just, it's not always what did I do wrong? What did I do different? And so from here, engaging them from this point forward, my approach is going to be very different. I'm not going to try to prove myself, and please let me in your group because it's supposed to be inclusive, but they're making it very exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of doing helpful and good things in my own way and on my own.
Yeah.
And then eventually, you know,
Yeah. Once
give
they
me a
see how
space.
amazing you are, they'll be like, please join our group.
Yeah, it'll take time.
Well,
I
it's early days. It's very early days. So
right.
no, that's good. That's very interesting. Very, very interesting. So we've got here the next slide is what happens if my Manipura is healthy. So is that what it says? I'm trying to make it a bit smaller so I can see everything that it says. Yes, it's clear and healthy. That's right. Okay. So an awareness of the effect of one's action upon others. So like you are aware of how what you're doing is affecting other people. So a lot of people, they go about life and they don't realize what they're doing is actually affecting how other people are feeling, because we all give off vibrations. Vibrations is one thing.
Yeah.
Vibrations connect to our deep intent, our deep what we're all about, our feelings and our emotions and how we feel about ourselves. So if we give off these negative vibrations, then other people are going to feel it, before we even do anything or say anything. You get a gut feeling about something or someone. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that awareness of your own effect, your own what you're doing, how that makes other people aware. Mind you, you can go the total opposite way, which is what I did when I was with my narc, and I think it was probably maybe it was too flowy in that sense, because I was like thinking about every little detail that I was doing, and how it was affecting him. And because he used to react really badly to almost everything that I do, even like slight breathing in the wrong direction. You're breathing on me. It's like, it's mad. Have I breath the right way or what? So yeah, you can get it the total opposite way as well. Yeah. So if it's healthy, you've also got control over your own life. That sense of control, get up and go. You own your own life. You've got that sense that you're strong. Exemplary leadership skills. So we spoke about that earlier on as well, because people will want to follow you. They will be inspired by your actions and by what you stand for.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then there's practicality. You're a practical person. And then instead of what's in it for me, it's what's in it for us. Like, let's look at us all together and like, how can I help you and how can I be of a service to you, and what's in it for us? Let's, the bigger picture. Yeah, rather than just me, it's us. And that's what I
Right.
think the group is all about. This recovering from narcissistic abuse group is all about what's in it for us. How can we be of good service to each other? So there's a lot
Right.
that I don't know, and I'd like to hear from you all. So that's
And recognizing that everyone has a different experience and a very different set of skills and is trained in different ways, that everyone has something to offer,
yeah, precisely.
and it can be of value. And so even with, this group that I was trying to associate and be a part of before, they were thinking, okay, how is this going to affect my standing and how people perceive me in this group? Instead of seeing it as, what, she came from a different area, her background is in a different, you know,
Yeah,
arena than ours, and she could really have a lot of insight to offer and a lot of information. This could really help the group
yeah,
instead of having that fear and intimidation, like, oh no, we've been doing good on our own,
yeah,
you
exactly.
know?
Yeah,
So yeah, it's about being part of a collective and realizing we need to be more inclusive.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah. And then that leads into willpower. Your willpower, other people's willpower, and you can then work together and have a really powerful team, because you've all got that willpower inside, to to move forward, to have that strength. The Manipura is really firing up then, so yeah, it's
Exactly.
very, very strong. So we have spoken about how to work on all the chakras and how to help them flow and bring balance and stuff. So that I'm not going to mention again, but there's a list of exercises and things that you can do to actually get the Manipura working. So all I will say is that each chakra, there are different exercises, different kriyas, different meditations, different aspects of those styles that we've put up there that you can actually tap into to work on. And these are the sort of things that Jen and myself can offer. We can offer you one-to-one support in helping you get there. If you find that your Manipura is blocked and you just want a meditation to work on that, the sound bowl healing is really good for that. And also Reiki and Qigong and meditation and Kundalini yoga, you name it. There's all these different aspects that will help you strengthen and get the Manipura flowing. So
Yeah, and this is a really important chakra because our lower two chakras, our Muladhara and Swadhisthana, those are more related to our animal nature, right? When we get to our solar plexus, our Manipura, this is where the seat or the start of our spiritual self begins.
Yes.
And this is where we can really begin to identify and find our own path and discover more about who we are, for ourselves, but also in relation to the world around us. This is a really important chakra. Yeah. And there are different practices, depending on what lineage you study or, from what cultural aspect you study, that some practices say, the Kundalini or this energy, that we talk about in our Kundalini Tantra or Kundalini Yoga starts in the Muladhara, but there are a lot of readings and practices that say, no, it starts in the Manipura. Yeah. Both make sense, right? When you look at them from very objective stances. However, for the Manipura, this is where our human self, our advanced self, our spiritual self begins. And so if you haven't yet explored different types of yoga or meditation, or, you're just kind of like, oh, I don't know, Manipura, this is like where it begins. This is where you can start to feel things moving in the body. This is where our energy, all of our energy comes from this chakra. This is what makes us mobile. This is what makes us go and move. So any of these practices, especially starting in the Manipura, it'll like catapult you into activity for sure.
Exactly. And especially if you're the kind of person that procrastinates and you're stuck and you want to get something done, which I think the whole world is pretty much there with this pandemic. So I think we all need to work on our Manipura, don't we?
Yeah. And another aspect of this, because nutrition is always on here, and I know Ed, your partner, does nutrition counseling. Right. This is another area where you focus on what you're eating, but when you're eating and how you're eating.
Exactly.
And so, are you chewing your food enough? Are you taking breaks between bites? Are you overeating? Are you undereating? Are you giving your body enough time between meals, right? Because when we think about what's happening when we're eating or consuming, is that all of our energy in our body goes to that area. And so there are some nutrition practices, depending on the type of person you are and what your energy requirements are. People need to eat every hour and a half, 2 hours. But that's not the case for everyone. I know for me, if I eat that often, I am exhausted because all my energy is going to digesting my food. So this is where it's really helpful to eat the right things, eat, easy to digest, well-cooked foods. So when you're going to start these yogic practices for the Manipura specifically, you want to focus on really cooked foods. Try to avoid things that are raw, because those are harder to digest. They're colder, like a vegetable. It takes way more energy to digest those foods. Exactly. So this is all related. Like whenever we focus on these different chakras, we got to pay attention to what we're putting in our bodies too, because we want to save and give information or give energy, so our body can give us the information it needs so we can respond accordingly. So, ask Katrina, about Ed and his knowledge about nutrition, because he can definitely help you with this aspect here and figuring out like how often you need to be eating and what you need to be eating based on what you're feeling and your symptoms. So that's my rant.
Thank you for bringing that to everyone's attention. That's great. I mean, like Ed, my partner, he is the vegan nutritionist here, and you don't have to follow a vegan plan. It's just that that's what his training was in, and he would help you in whatever state you're in to get to where you want to be physically. And the work that we would do together is that you would get the right nutrition, and as you're getting this information, your brain on a subconscious level is taking it all in. And with the meditation practices that you do and with the Kundalini yoga that you do, you will then tap into what is the right food to eat, when is the right time to eat it, and then your body and your mind is just gonna like blend in, and you're just gonna know what's the right thing, because at the moment I'm eating a lot of chocolate, I'm eating loads of chocolate. I bought a ton of cacao powder, about like a whole kilo's worth for £9, which I bought on Amazon, and shouldn't have said that, but I bought it, and I just like felt the need at this moment, and it turns out there's a lot of magnesium and potassium and obviously feeling good factors that you get from cacao. So I don't make it with like any sugar or anything like that. I just like have it raw and mix it like we did before, the coconut oil, remember?
You should post that recipe on the group.
I will
this video because it's really good chocolate. Like we made it because we didn't have access. And Katrina's like, I know how to make chocolate. We're like, no way.
It's so
it's possible. It's good.
Okay, so watch your space. I will post that recipe up. I have a video of me doing that on YouTube. Actually, I'll share that there. That'll be a good idea. So so making your own chocolate, that's what I've been doing, and I've been making my own smoothies, and I've been making my own because I felt like I need the protein, so I've been having chocolate protein and chocolate. So my body's been telling me that I need more of this stuff. It will come to a point where I'll be like, oh, I don't want it anymore for a while, and that does happen. So at the moment, chocolate's the thing. Not that long ago, before that, it was like dark leafy greens. I really, really needed dark leafy greens, and I was like, couldn't get enough of it. And so this is what happens. If you tune into your body and your mind, it will tell you what it needs, and it will give it to you in the form of cravings. So you won't crave what you normally crave to have, binging. If you watch that episode that we put up, crappy foods in the front of the telly or something, you will crave stuff that's genuinely good for you. And so this is the difference. It's like that you will crave a nice drink of water, or you'll crave, whatever, so it's about craving the right foods to feed yourself, to feed the chakras, to feed your cells, everything, so this is why nutrition is so important, because with the knowledge of nutrition, and then you do the chakra work and the meditation, you don't need to go to the gym. You just get healthy and mentally balanced, and that's like all of that for one price is pretty cool, I think.
Right, and you're not forcing anything. You're just responding to what your needs are.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of times, when people try to say, okay, I'm going to start a diet, or I'm going to, do this program, there's so many restrictions, and then you have this sense of guilt, which is associated with the Manipura, because it's like an expectation thing. You let yourself down and you feel ashamed and you're losing self-worth and self-confidence. No, there's other ways, gradual ways where you're still listening and giving yourself what you need to feel good and feel better, and not feeling guilty about, making a mistake or slipping up or having too much of something. It is what it is. Just be kind to yourself,
And
otherwise you're just setting yourself back,
Exactly. So we're going to move to the next slide, and we have here, I'll hand it over to Jen and sound healing.
Yeah. So when you see me looking this way, I'm looking at the slides on my other screen. So I'm like reading. So for sound healing here, the vibrational healing for the Manipura when you're using sound bowls, it helps to develop and reinforce self-assuredness and encourage transformation, because this is where transformation occurs in the chakra scheme. It promotes personal power through transparency. And so it allows us to present our truest self, because this is where we're learning our spiritual identity, our personal identity, our food identity, everything, right? So we can be transparent with ourselves, with those around us. It's kind of like whenever you meet that person and you're like, I like her because she just says it like it is. You know, she doesn't hold anything back. Like, she's very transparent. She's very open.
Mm.
And that's what this is related to. It's just kind of giving yourself that power again to be yourself. So on the sound healing slide, I posted a YouTube link to Tibetan sound healing for the solar plexus or Manipura chakra. So it's another like 3 hour. You don't have to do the whole 3 hours. You can play it in the background. You can do 5 minutes. You can do 30 minutes, whatever works for you. Again, this is that chakra where we're saying, you know, I can't sit there for 45 minutes, but I can do 10. Yay. It's great. It's all good. Do 10. It works. Don't torture yourself.
No.
And then, of course, for self Reiki, because we can add this to our sound healing meditation. And of course, we have our mantras that we state. Only the best energies are coming to me. I am a clear, open, receptive channel for the universal life energy. I am absolute. The last two changed, right? Because we have two this week. It's I can, I do. And so those are our self Reiki mantras. Our hand positions, the pictures are on the slide if you need them. You can stack one hand on top of the other and then center this area of your hands right over your belly button. Or you can do your hands like this and place them on your lower ribs. So those are the two positions, depending on if you're doing your quiet time in a seated position or in lying down in Shavasana. The different hand positions may be helpful for like increasing your level of comfort. So whatever you prefer, either one is fine. The pictures are on there. Take time for yourself. Focus on, you know, this yellowy orange color. Think of the sun. Think of fire. Think of yourself doing things and moving and being active. These are all the characteristics that we can think of with the Manipura. Or of course, you could think of a ram or a goat.
Hence goat yoga, right?
Headbutting all that procrastination out of the way.
Yeah, headbutt it out of the way. Imagine you're a goat putting it out of the way.
Exactly. So do whatever, think of whatever works for you. Do whatever works for you.
I just had this crazy idea. So maybe what you could do is write some of these words of things that are holding you back, yeah? And then imagine you're a goat kind of like ramming it out of the way, you know?
It's true. It's true.
Ramming
Especially with my situation that I'm thinking about this week with this group, I might do that because I just want to get all of those thoughts or, you know, negative energy out of the way.
Yeah,
it does set you bad. It makes you second guess yourself.
Yeah,
you know, so
need that.
Just get it away.
A client of mine actually used burning. He actually put some of those negative thoughts that he had, and he put it into a fire at the garden fire, and he just like, right, I don't want that anymore. That's not in my life anymore. And it's amazing just by writing things down, that cathartic feeling from doing that and throwing it away. It's amazing what that just does to you. But it's good to do a Manipura chakra healing session, and it will bring stuff out, and that stuff that comes up, that's the stuff that you want to write down, and that's the stuff you want to throw away, because it comes from deep within. Because you could be thinking, and you think, oh, what's the kind of stuff that's holding me back? Yeah, that's fine on a superficial level and a conscious level that you're aware of, but deep down inside, when you meditate, when stuff does come up and you go like, oh, I hadn't thought about that, you know. And it's amazing. These are the things that you're processing. And so when you do stuff like that, it really is cathartic, and it really is releasing a lot of like stored up trauma that we hold. And particularly being abused, we have all this negative vibes and negative sounds told to us. So it's our time to now release that.
It's releasing.
Oh,
So this is where the crying could begin.
yeah.
Just you know out there.
Oh,
That,
I remember.
yeah, start focusing on these upper chakras.
Mhm.
Tears tend to happen because this is where you're really like letting go of those vulnerabilities or accepting your vulnerabilities and saying, you know what, to others, this may seem like a vulnerability or a weakness,
Mhm.
but this is my strength.
Yeah.
And that's where you start like,
And it's good. It's good. The more you cry, the better it is, So just let it all
yeah,
out. Fine. Yeah.
get rid of it, let it go. So
Right. I think we've come to a very long session now. It's gone like, I think it's been like 50 minutes or so. But yeah,
it's worth it.
it's all good. So we'd love to hear from you. So please, 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 please comment below and share it if you can. I'm not sure how you can share it, but it will be on the page. You can copy the link, I think, from the page and then share it to your own page and get as many people involved in this because we want to help people heal. So, this is free and, it's up to you how you want to go about getting your healing. But, the PowerPoint's got the information and the discussion hopefully will inspire you to do something. So we really,
Absolutely.
really enjoyed sharing this, and it's also brought up stuff for us as well. I was like,
It helped me this week.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So this is really good. Next week, we're going to talk about the Anahata, which is the heart chakra. So it's all about grief and about love. And yeah, so that's it from me today and from Jen. Namaste. And thank you so much.
Namaste.
See you next week. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.